So let's start with the first ever video, and it's about our continental championship, the Libertadores. We're going to talk a little about all the champions, and I am starting with São Paulo. And in the 25 Libertadores Bridgestone, and the winner was São Paulo. But let's talk a little about everyone. We have 8 groups, and in the 8th, Boca Juniors and Pachuca passed. Sporting Cristal and Deportivo Cuenca were eliminated. Boca Juniors first, Pachuca second. In the 7th group, we had Chivas, Once Caldas, Cobreloa, and San Lorenzo, with the 2 first that I mentioned passing to the next round. Tigres and Banfield with 12 and 11 points. Then Alianza Lima and Caracas eliminated. So we had River Plate with 16, Junior Barranquilla with 9, Olmedo 7, and Nacional from Uruguay 3 in the group 5. The group 4 we had Cerro Porteño winning the group with 12, Palmeiras with 9, Santo André and Deportivo Táchira with 8 and 3. In the group 3, São Paulo passed with 12 points, drawing 3 games. Universidad de Chile with 9, Quilmes in the strongest draws with 5 and were both eliminated. Santos LDU passed with 12 and 8 points. Danube Bolivar eliminated with both 7 points. And in the last group, the group 1, Independente Medellín and Atlético Paranaense passed with 10 points. Then América Cali eliminated with 9, and Libertar with 6 was the bottom and eliminated also. So starting the knockout stage, we had the 16th stage with 16 teams, better in 8 games. There was first game and second game with the away goal rule on. So the first game was Once Caldas and Tigres. The aggregate, Tigres won 3-2. And let's find out a little more on Once Caldas and Tigres. In the first game, 1-1 on the stadium of Once Caldas with Walter Gaitan in the 35th minute, making 1-0 to Tigres, but Nestor Alvarez drawing for Once Caldas at the 83rd. And then in the second game, Tigres won by 2-1. Started losing with a goal by Fabro, but then at 53 and 65 they scored 2 goals and passed to the next round, to the quarterfinals. In the second game, Universidad de Chile and Santos played, ending the game on Chile was 2-1 to Universidad, with goals by Diego Javiola and Patricio Galas. Ricardinho for Santos scored at the minute 67. And in the second game at Vila Belmiro, 3-0 to Santos, with Flavio scoring and 2 by Robinho, 1 being a penalty, passing Santos to the next round. So the third game was Atlético Paranaense against Cerro Porteño, 2-1 at Curitiba in Brazil, with Lima and Cleo scoring and Julio dos Santos scoring for Cerro. In the second game was 2-1 again to Cerro Porteño, with Julio dos Santos scoring, Lima drawing, but Santiago Caicedo scoring again, then 2-1, and in the penalties 5-4 to Atlético Paranaense, considering the place to the next round. In the Mexican derby, Pachuca and Chivas drawed 1-1 in the first game, with the Pachuca playing at home, and Borghetti made a 1-0 to the home team. Then Francisco Palencia drawed at the 48th minute. And in the second game, 3-1 to Pachuca, no, to Chivas, sorry. 3-1 to Chivas with goals by Juan Pablo Frado, Alejandro Vela, and Rafael Medina. But who started winning was Pachuca with a goal by Sergio Santana, passing Chivas. Then Brazilian derby in São Paulo City. Palmeiras and São Paulo played one against the other, and Cicinho scored the only goal at the Palmeiras Stadium, the Palestra Itália, that now is the Allianz Park. Then in the Morumbi game, the São Paulo home game, it was 2-0 to São Paulo with Rogério Ceni scoring at the 82th minute and Cicinho scoring again to make the São Paulo to the quarterfinal. Then Fanfield and the Independente Medellin. Banfield won the both games and made 5-0. River Plate against LDU Quito. Sorry. LDU started winning at home with 35 goal by Urita, Patiño, and the road to River, and Urita again at the 73rd minute scored the second for LDU. But River Plate won 4-2 at Monumental de Núñez in Argentina with Salas, Resaco on goal, Carlos Espinola on goal, and Lucho Gonzalez. LDU made their goals with Palacios and Espinola. River Plate to the quarterfinal. And then in the last game, 3-3, Junior Barranquilla and Boca Juniors at the Juniors home in Colombia, with Perez, Arzuga, and Acuña making goals for the Barranquilla, but Boca with Xavi, Palacio, and Delgado, they drawed in the last minutes because the game was 3-1 until the 59th minute. Palacio scored at the 60th, and Delgado just turned the game back to Boca Juniors in the last minute. But the game in Bombonera in Argentina was a massacre with 2 by Guglielmi Pietro and 2 by Palermo. They scored 4-0 and passed to the quarterfinal. Now the quarterfinals would be good because we started with Chivas against Boca Juniors, and a surprise because Boca was one of the biggest teams, but the Mexican team went to the halftime letting the game 0-0, but then scored 4-0 with Garcia, Bravo, and Batistuta, and Alfaro too. Then in the game in the Argentina was 0-0, considering the semifinals place to Chivas. In the Argentinian Classic, 1-1 Banfield and River Plate at Banfield's home at goals by Billos and Gallardo. But in the second game at River's home, it had to be River, with Ernesto Farias 2 times and Zapata scoring against Billos and Barcijo scoring 2 times too. But River passed. São Paulo played against Tigres and made 4-0 in the home game. 1 from Luizão, 2 from Rogério Ceni, and 1 from Souza. And a curiosity is that if Rogério Ceni had scored a penalty that he missed, he would do his first and ever, because he never done in his whole career. He never did. He is retired right now, but he was a goalkeeper. He would do a hat-trick being a goalkeeper. That was done from a goalkeeper already, but Rogério Ceni is the goalkeeper with most goals in the world, and that was what fought for him. Continuing in the Mexican game, 2-1 to Tigres, scored by André Silveira, and Souza made São Paulo's goals. At the end of the game, Atlético Paranaense and Santos 3-2 at Curitiba, but at Vila Belmiro it wasn't different. Santos had a great team, but Aloysio scored 2 times and made it 5-2. Going São Paulo against River and Atlético Paranaense against Chivas. And this game, São Paulo lost to Tigres, was the only loss São Paulo had the entire tournament. Atlético Paranaense won Chivas 3-0 with Aloysio Fernandinho and Fabrício at their home game, and then 3-0 was a big advantage. Losing to 2-0 they could in Mexico, but it was difficult because we saw what Chivas did with Boca. Atlético made the job 2-2 with goals by Palencia 2 times and Lima 2 times. They passed to the final. And the other game, São Paulo would get River Plate. In Morumbi, at São Paulo Stadium, Danilo scored at the 76th minute. And then at the end of the game, at 89th, Rogério Ceni made it 2-0. But there was the game in El Monumental de Núñez, River Plate Stadium, where Ernesto Farias and Marcelo Salles scored for River, but Danilo, Amoroso, and Fabão scored for São Paulo and passed them to the final. The first ever Brazilian final. We had one the year before this. There was the year after this one. There was a final between Internacional and São Paulo, and these two last years, Palmeiras and Flamengo, and Palmeiras and Santos. But at this time was the first ever Brazilian final. First game, it was to be at Curitiba, but with some problems, the game went to Beira Rio at Rio Grande do Sul. But the home game was Atléticos, and they started winning with Aloysio Chulapa scoring. Yes, Aloysio Chulapa, which is a great idol from São Paulo. But Durval scored an own goal. Yes, Durval own goal. In the second game at Morumbi, São Paulo needed to win. It was everything or nothing, and they did it. As you know, they did it. Amoroso started scoring, then Atlético missed a penalty, and in the second half, only São Paulo. Fabão, again, Luizão, and Tardelli scored 3 goals to São Paulo, making it 4-0, and São Paulo won Libertadores. And would play the World Cup against Liverpool in 2005. You remember, Liverpool won Milan at the penalty at historic Istanbul game. I will talk about it too because I know I am here to inform about a little bit about the Libertadores, but the winner of the Libertadores go to the World Cup, so it would be good to talk a little about it. So let's start it and talking about the semi-final and the final only, okay? The games. We had Liverpool winning by Deportivo Saprissa and São Paulo winning 3-2 Al Ittihad. Not I'm talking a lot about the semi-final because the semi-final wasn't the important thing. The important thing was the final. It was a game which Liverpool entered being the Invincibles. They didn't consider the goal. They were the Champions League champion, but that São Paulo was inspired. The goal of São Paulo was in the first half with a ball to Mineiro, a great pass, and he mano a mano with Pepe Reina. He wouldn't miss, scored the goal, the midfielder of São Paulo. But that wasn't the great player. There was Gano, who played well. He got sound straight entries, and Gerard. He is a Uruguayan player, Gano, and defender. That is why some English players reclaim about, they stare about the World Cup because of the Uruguayan player being so aggressive. And Lugano made it with Jared. But the true and the real hero was Rogério Ceni. The goalkeeper who scored goals, he scored once, one in the semi-final, but the final he didn't score. He is the first ever goalkeeper to score in the Club World Cup. The goalkeeper Rogério Ceni saved a freaking VAR Gerard. You know how good he takes, but he took the ball. The fall was straight to the goal. So he took the ball and the ball was going to angle. Rogério Ceni saved it. You can search for it. Then Rogério Ceni saves against Gerard in the Club World Cup. It was impressive. So thank you for another episode, for the first ever episode, and see you later to another episodes about our Latin American football.